Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm Daz. I've got Steve with me, and our special guest for tonight is Ken Solomon, who is from Quest Sports Travel. Hiya, Ken. How are you?
Very good. I'm great, mates. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Living life.
As much as we can.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in my my little abode with the wife and the kids, but yeah, it's good. What we normally do with our guests, our first 5-10 minutes, we go over why Liverpool, why do you support Liverpool, and then your first experience at Anfield.
I've heard it before, especially last week. Happy to chat about that. Why Liverpool? I've told the story a few times, and it all starts with my kids, believe it or not. They were the ones who introduced me to the club and to the history. When they were very young, our town had a youth soccer program like most cities and suburban towns do. And we would hire this group from England. They would send coaches over for a week, and they would tour the States, and in our town had them come in for 1 week session of playing and coaching and skill development. And we would house a number of the parents in the town would house individual coaches who were coming through. So I think when my kids were probably, I'm going to guess 8 and 6, we housed one of the coaches who turned out to be a big Liverpool supporter, and he got the kids hooked. And from then on, they were the ones who actually convinced me to become a Liverpool supporter as they got older. And turns out that they actually went to a match in Liverpool before I ever did. So I have them to blame and to thank, of course.
Hey, Ken, what year was this? So give some little time frame.
Oh wow, we're probably talking in the 90s.
Okay.
1990s. And then the first match I ever went to turns out it was Kara's last match.
Nice.
It was the last home match of the season, his last match of his career. And it was just a great introduction. I don't think, unless one were to go to a European night or something, I don't think anything could have matched that evening.
That was the one where he actually, his last match where he nearly scored as well, didn't he?
He did. He hit the post. We were sitting in the upper ante, and they were going into the cop. And every time he would touch the ball, the entire stadium would scream, "Shoot!" And he finally did from about 30 yards out, and everyone thought it was going in, and just skimmed the post. Actually, they do the lap of honor, obviously, at the last match of the season. And it was pretty exciting and pretty special to see him with his kids going around the field, around the pitch. And he had his kids, and he actually took off his jersey. And I think that there was a kind of a regular in what was then the centenary stand. And stop and give him his match jersey. So it was quite the moment.
And what does Liverpool mean to you?
Wow, means a lot actually. So I've been running these programs. We're going into our 9th season, and I have to say that it extends beyond the club. I consider Liverpool my adopted second city, my adopted hometown. What I try and do with our programs is infuse people who come with us with what I see as, my love of the city. I want them to leave loving Liverpool, the people, the culture. They already love the club. I want them to really love the people as much as I do by the time they leave. And I can't speak highly enough just how welcoming everyone is, how friendly everyone is, how sarcastic everyone is. It's the people, the culture, the city. It's tremendous.
You know, Ken, it's funny, and thank you for coming on our show. You and I have known each other for over 5 years now. When
Right.
been able to go on one of your trips, I was very fortunate that we were able to meet and to travel together, right? And so, but take us a little bit back, because you said that you came to the club through your kids. What was the rationale behind, hey, I'm going to start doing these trips, right? Because I've been on your trips. They're fantastic. I mean, everybody that has gone on the trips, 100% go with Ken Solomon, go with Quest Sports. But what was the decision-making process? Tell us a little bit by how you became this person that went to the Cop for Carragher's last game, and then you said, hey, I'm going to transition to this being a business.
Sure, sure. I will tell you, I don't consider it a business. It's really a love more than anything else. I'm semi-retired. I do this out of love and my affinity for both the club and the people. So that's a starting point. I think going back, that first match was our first trip.
Okay.
And it was a very small group. But the whole genesis of this was, so I have a background both in professional sports, primarily baseball, as well as event marketing and some group travel as well. I saw an opportunity to combine my love for the club, my desire to get there and to explore the city and really get into the history, because my youngest son played in college. Okay. And when he was a sophomore, his school had preseason over in England. And ever since then, I had met the people who ran that trip for his coach. And it turns out it was Quest Sports Travel. And I approached him and said, look, I think that there's this real groundswell in the States for Premier League football. And as a Liverpool fan and supporter, I'd really like to explore the opportunity to bring fans over, because it was just burgeoning at that point. I think that NBC had just bought the rights that year, and there was enough, I think, anecdotal information to suggest that the sport had really taken hold in the States. Plus the fact, doing some research about the number of supporters clubs, et cetera, it seemed like that there clearly could be an audience for this. And that's what really prompted all of it.
And so this is, so for our listeners and viewers, what year would this have been?
This would have been 2013, spring of 2013. So it was the 2012-2013 season. And we've been running trips ever since. They've grown in number, grown in size. We keep it small because we want to be intimate. I don't want a 50-seater bus and having people get on, get off, and be impersonal. This is very much an interactive program in which we hope everyone, and they do, everyone leaves as a best friend to one another. So we usually keep it around 15, and which allows us to interact with people. I know you've had Peter Carney on, for example. Peter's tremendous. We work with Peter extensively and exclusively. So it allows us to take his bus and to go around town with him.
Yeah. It's just to let our viewers and listeners know, full disclosure, I've been on 3 trips of yours, and every single one has been awesome. I mean, you're very responsible for my first trip to Anfield. And just kind of reviewing my experience, it seems like you've have made it possible for a lot of first-time people to come to Anfield.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And the thing is like, and Daza knows, and our subscribers know that I always talk about my first trip there, and that I always enjoy listening. And that's actually, it's part of our program. When we ask people about their first trip to Anfield, is because it brings us back. You know, it really makes us think about when we went to Anfield that first time, and that every time somebody tells a story, it brings us back to that time, and it makes us get that feeling again, like, you know. And I have to assume that it's a honor and a pleasure for you to coordinate these things, these trips, and people are going to Anfield for the very first time.
Man, you hit it right on the head there. Absolutely. I think I take as much pleasure out of meeting everyone and really introducing them to the city and the people, and that whole atmosphere of Anfield. And it really does. It gives me a great deal of pleasure because I get to share my love with them, and they reciprocate. So it really is very special. And we tried, I know that you've been on several trips. We actually have had a number of people come back a second time, not a third yet, but a second. And yeah, and we try. I'm always trying to add new things, new and different things. We've had, at the beginning it was just the match. Then it became we were able to meet with John Gibbons and Neil Harrington. Neil Atkinson, I'm sorry. And then we've branched out. We've met Peter. Peter's now very much an integral part. Jackie Spencer with the Beatles is an integral part. Yeah. I know that, Stephen, you got to meet Frida Kelly. She at times has been a part. So we always try and expand and try some new and some different things. And along the way, we've met a lot of ex-players and been able to bring them into the program as well. So there's always something new. There's always something great to explore and see for the first time.
And Ken, has been one of those interesting things is that every trip that you do is different because, for instance, the one time, for those that don't know, Frida Kelly was the first press secretary for the Beatles. Right. To be able to have lunch with her and hear about the stories of the Beatles and showing pictures and showing some memorabilia and she doesn't think of herself as somebody that's very important in the history of music, right? Where everybody else would be like, hey, you were so important, but she's so down to earth, but you offer different things. Jackie Spencer that does the Beatles tour, and she is so ingrained in the city, and she's like very happy to show visitors what Liverpool is about. And you've done a great job to making a variety of things that happens. There's always a legend that shows up on your trips. So I wanted to ask you, like, how as this business has taken off, right?
Yes.
How has the process been with the club? Because you have had like David Faircloth, Alan Kennedy, with our good friend Paul Tremarco, who's been on our podcast from the Arkles. You've had different meeting. Yeah, Terry Matt. I mean, David Gillespie. You've had these guys at these places. So how has the relationship between you and the club grown since you've started this business?
Well, surprisingly enough, there is no formal relationship.
Right.
We've done everything on our own. We've been very fortunate to have made a number of contacts and networks. We've just been able to network and continue to grow. So I think that, Alan really established a foothold for us over there. And then we were able to get, as you said, David Faircloth. We've had Terry Mack. We've had Jimmy Case, Phil Neal. We've gone to, as you all know, we went to the Istanbul reunion. And we were able to go to a private reception with a number of the members of the squad from that year. So it's just, again, it goes back to people are just so warm and welcoming, and hopefully they've seen what we do and they enjoy it, and the word just gets around. I mean, for example, the last couple of years, we've really done very well with getting some of the writers who covered the squad. So James Pierce, who I know you've had on as well. I mean, you've done a who's who and an all-star list of everyone so far, not including, I don't put myself in that category.
We're trying.
James has met with us on a couple of occasions. David Lynch, who writes for the Evening Standard, has also joined us, as well as Glenn Price, who used to be the ESPN correspondent, Liverpool correspondent, who now works for the club in their media department. So, what can I say? We've just been really fortunate on our own to have made a lot of this happen. Although I have to say, we did run into some of the club administrators in the past year or two, and they've been very kind to us as well.
No, they are very kind. I mean, and you have to think about how difficult their job is now with the popularity of Liverpool Football Club, right? Everybody wants to go to the game. And so my first trip back with you was 2015. We went to the last, we were there actually for that, for the gala, right? And
Right.
That was a Stoke, when Liverpool played away, we lost to Stoke 6-1. But now I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the availability of tickets with all the OLFCs that have proliferated since Klopp has joined, that the availability of tickets has really gotten more difficult. And for somebody like you that is creating experiences, I don't want to call it a trip. It's not just a trip; it's an experience because you add other things besides going to the game. How is that been? How's that process changed in the last 5 years since Klopp has come to get tickets to the games?
That's a great question, Steve. And let me maybe amend my previous answer about my association with the club. I have worked very closely with the corporate sales department. So they have that's really my only contact with the club officially, but they particularly our sales rep within the corporate sales, hospitality sales, has been very good. It gets tougher and tougher every year.
Right.
The demand for tickets is, as you suggest, incredible. It is much more of a global fan base right now. And that's one of the reasons why we have to go the hospitality route.
Right.
Number one, we could never get that many individual tickets on our own. And to go through touts really is not the way I want to go. I want it to be legitimate. And we all, it's a wonderful experience for all of us to be able to sit together. So we have to go the hospitality ticket route. And obviously it's more expensive, but hopefully people do find it that it's worth it.
You speak about touts, and I wanted to bring Daze back in there. Hey, Daze, can you kind of give us some historical perspective on the touts, the process? I mean,
Arseholes.
I know. I'm
Without revealing yourself to be one of them, you mean?
Well, but I'm saying there is this thing, right? And I know that they're cracking down. So maybe Dazga, who is from Liverpool, could tell us about the history of touts and how it has progressed to this day, where because
just
it's
greedy.
hard to get tickets, right?
Well, yeah, but it's just greedy people from even like the early 80s. You have people just trying to sell a ticket for 3 times the amount.
Right.
But back in the 80s, you spend 20 quid for 30 quid for a ticket.
Right.
Now it's with everything you're gonna pay 90 quid for a ticket times like 10 now.
You can pay much more than that from touts. Number one, I can tell you stories for the last few trips.
Tell us a story, Ken.
Okay, boys and girls, it's story time. So I try and get to the Man City match every year. I try and reserve that in advance with the club. And I can recall this last season when we usually pick up our tickets a day or two ahead of time at the window at the stadium. And there were people in line who said they just spent 500 quid on tickets. And it turns out the tickets are bogus. And, does the club have any spares? And this is just going, and not only is it the price, and the price from Touts is way more than 90 quid.
Right.
No,
90 quid,
like
90 quid.
I was saying, to get the ticket yourself is about, could be 90. No, Touts 10 times that.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, no.
And then
that's what I'm talking about, the tout system, because I think a lot of people that are listening to our program that aren't from Liverpool, that are going to the stadium or like from all around the world, they don't understand the touts, right? So I want to kind of educate people on what touts mean.
Sure, and I'll defer after to Daz, but essentially it's street hawkers trying to resell tickets that may or may not be legitimate. And the problem is right now is that there's so many of them who are selling bogus tickets that you're really rolling the dice and taking a chance for a lot of money. So my recommendation to anybody is never, ever buy a ticket from somebody on the street. It's just not worth it. Plus the fact the club is really cracking down on resellers, unauthorized resellers, so that if, and Daz could probably speak to this better, for those that may be getting a season ticket from somebody that they don't really know, if they're found out at the stadium, because you have to go through a checkpoint with your ticket to get in, and with your season ticket holders have a pass, if they have any suspicion that you're not the season ticket holder, not only do you not get in, but the season ticket holder gets his or her ticket taken away for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Daza knows this. I mean, but that's been going on for years, right? Where I can't make the game, you take my ticket, and so what you want to do is kind of safeguard for people that are traveling from around the world, thinking they have a ticket, and they're not going through legitimate sources and getting all the way there, and they don't have a ticket, So I always tell people, they're like, "Hey, is this legitimate?" It's buyer beware, right? You
Absolutely.
have to go through trusted sources, and you can't go to the stadium and think you're going to get a valid ticket, and you've never met the person. But I mean, it's like the same way in the United States, right? It's probably the same way everywhere. Like, you can't just meet somebody and think. So we always try to tell people, use legitimate sources, use sources that, especially with the supporters club, right? Supporters clubs will tell you, like, this person's legitimate, this person's not legitimate. Go through this, and everybody has a recommendation. So you want to use those legitimate sources, because you don't want to travel all that way and not be able to get into the game.
Right.
You don't
want to be one of the ones crying, saying that I just spent 300 quid and I've got a bogus ticket.
No, you don't want to be that. And so I know that there's probably a lot of people that have experienced that, and that it's a shame, right?
Yeah.
So just tell everybody, go through legitimate sources, go through people like Ken or the other sources that are very legitimate, have a track record of getting tickets.
Yes.
And then you feel sure about it, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But Ken, go ahead.
I would say your first time, go through a company like Ken's, because you want your first experience to be amazing. And just like Ken said, you don't want to get airfare, get your hotel, and then you get to the stadium and they just laugh at you and go, your ticket's crap.
Yeah, and they will laugh at you too.
Oh yeah, they will, because you're dumb,
Yeah, right.
and then put your tail between your legs and go to the pub.
Yeah, but I mean, it's cool when they laugh at you because it's in the Scouse accent, so it's almost cool.
Well, I don't think anybody laughing at you for spending that amount of money.
I'm just being sarcastic that, you spent $1,000 to get there, and this guy's in the Scouse accent say, your ticket's not good, buddy. Go down to the Arcles and watch the game, right?
That's usually Evertonians touting.
Yeah. That's right. Hey, Ken, I want to ask you, so when you started the tours, right?
Yes.
And you really expanded, like you brought in, like Jim Boardman was one of the guys that at the beginning, from from he redeemed journalists, right? And then
Yes.
you started bringing in Peter Carney, and then you had Jackie. And so, how does I mean, just like, is it the process is like every time you go there, you're meeting new people and say, hey, would you like to be part of this? And you start expanding on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I mean, people are so warm, so welcoming, that you meet new people and you just branch out. I mean, I'm always on the lookout to try and find something new, something different, something to add so that people can, come for a repeat trip and still find it worthwhile.
Right.
So, yeah, but I mean, it has grown tremendously over the years. And if I can just take a quick second, just kind of give a basic outline of what the
Sure.
programs entail.
Of course.
Usually they're 4 to 5 days. We have done, for example, holiday trips over the Christmas time period in which it's longer because we can get in 2 to 3 matches at home. Or we'll sometimes combine a European night with a Premier League match. So, but typically just for a Prem match, it's 4 to 5 days in which we will pick everyone up at Manchester Airport. That will be the meeting place unless someone has a way to get into Liverpool themselves, but we'll pick everyone up. We'll come into Liverpool, and the first thing we'll do is an Anfield Stadium tour. And I know you've had Paul Tremarco from the Arkles on. Well, his cousin, Michael, is one of the tour guides and is a great, great guy. And I always search him out. And if he's not leading the tour, he will then be working usually by the locker rooms, and he will greet everybody in our tour who comes through. So we'll start with that and then give them an evening to just kind of acclimate themselves to the time change. Have an early evening. If they want, we can all go out, grab a bite to eat. If not, they want to decide to cut in early and just get to sleep. Great. Next day, we'll probably start with Peter Carney's tour. And we'll go around, and that's usually, we used to say it's a half day, but Peter finds it difficult to keep it that, keep it just to that. So it usually ends up being 3/4 of a day. And of course, we go to, you may have heard of the place, Home Baked Anfield. And we'll usually, in the middle of Peter's tour, we'll have lunch there and listen to what they've done, which is just a fantastic story in and of itself. And it continues to grow. And then Peter will conclude the tour, and then we'll come back and go out. The next day, we'll usually try and have lunch with the legend or do the Beatles tour, or both. And then the next day after that is the match.
Ken, it's as you've done these tours over the years, kind of take us through the transformation of the city. Because I know 2015, when we went on that tour, we walked down on those row houses, and a lot of them were boarded up, and no one was living there. And we kind of joked like we should buy one of these, right? You can't buy one of them now.
I remember that.
But it's like,
I wish I had listened to you then.
I know. I wish I would have listened to myself then as well. But just kind of share with us, the people that have not been able to go, just the transformation that you've seen in 5 or 6 years around the stadium, obviously with the main stand, but just the community with home baked there. But a lot of the investment that FSG has put into the surrounding communities of Anfield, because I think a lot of people that slate FSG, they don't realize what they're doing with the community as well.
Yeah, they are a tremendous part and probably one of the prime movers behind the revitalization of the area. When I first went in 2013, I was absolutely shocked at what I saw walking around Anfield, just the outskirts of the stadium. And as you say, Stephen, all the homes were basically boarded up. If the row houses, if 1 out of every 10 was occupied, it was a lot. And of course, that all stems from, and I won't get into the history, but the American and Canadian owners who tried to fleece everybody in the area. but it was like almost like utter devastation. It's something that you would envision, not that they were bombed out, but it was so desolate that you imagine this is what England was like after, you know, World War II.
Right.
Just totally in disrepair, isolated, no one living there, you know, windows boarded, and to see it now is 180 degrees different. It's all been redone, rebuilt, revitalized. It's amazing what the club and the surrounding people have done, and Home Baked, as you suggest, is a major part of that. They are the voice of the local community in both working with the club and also working in the community to help regenerate and revitalize both businesses and housing standards for the area.
Daza, he's from Formby. So I wanted to ask, Daza, is like, when you talk to your family back in Liverpool, what is their perspective on that? Do they also see what we've seen in the last 5 years, the revitalization of this area around Anfield?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, well, Formby's about 20 minutes outside of Liverpool. It's the posh area.
It's a lovely golfing community.
We call it the posh scousers. It's basically where all the footballers and Klopp lives. But I've got some mates, you know, that live in the city centre, and what I love about the community is they help one another. You know, like Ken said, Home Baked are amazing. The food banks are amazing. But the revitalisation around Anfield looks a hell of a lot better than it did, you know, 10 years ago. It looked like shit. You know, to have this amazing stadium, and then it looked like World War II had happened, or they'd never picked up from it, you know, and there was a lot of, you know, drug use around there. They've cleaned all that up. But my hat's off to the community around Anfield, though. They have just gotten together and gone, we've had enough of this shit, you know, let's do something. So my hat's off to them. And, you know, the capital of culture happened, 15 years ago? So that was massive. You know, they redid the whole docks, you know. There was nothing there in the early 2000s. And then they've got restaurants, nightclubs, you know, the Maritime Museum that's there is absolutely amazing. And Ken, I hope you know, have you been there?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have. And the last year, the past season, there was also at the Liverpool Museum a very important exhibit that Yoko Ono had underwritten about her years with John. And it was one of the most amazing exhibits I've ever been to. In fact, I've gone through, you know, I went 3 times. Because I couldn't take it all in at once. It was large, but it was just so overwhelming that it took me 3 trips to really get through it. It was very emotional. But you're right. I mean, all the museums, there's now the British music experience, if you've been there as well, that's probably only about 2 years old. And of course, you have the Beatles story and a whole bunch of other things. For those people who haven't been there, the only thing I can liken it to would be Inner Harbor in Baltimore, for example, or Faneuil Hall in Boston. They've really taken the docks and refurbished them into a really successful and thriving commercial area.
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve.
I
had a thought and it just went.
Okay, well, so while you're thinking, hey, Ken, obviously a good friend of the show and personal friends of us is Paul Tremarco, right, from the famous Arkle Pubs. So, do you remember when you first met him and then how he became a very important part of what you do on your tours?
Yeah, I met Paul through another good friend, Mike Lepic, who's the executive director of Jamie Carragher's 23 Foundation.
Yeah, I know Mike. Yeah.
and so we first, Mike was gracious enough to say, come on, I'd love to meet your people when they come over, and let's meet at the Arcos. And he introduced me to Paul, and out of that, I have a very strong relationship with Mike and the foundation. I'm actually considered one of the U.S. ambassadors.
Right.
And then, I bring everybody into the Arcos then, usually pre-match, if not after the stadium tour. And Paul just opens his arms, is incredibly welcoming, and just treats everybody like family when we go there.
Yeah, he says he's such a good guy, and we've known him for a while, and he met up with us in San Francisco.
Yeah.
When Liverpool was playing out here, and he's such a he feels like he himself is an ambassador of the club, right? And he accepts people that are coming from all over the world. They know to come there, and he's one of the few pubs around Anfield that allows visiting fans to come in there and just, and have a good time. And so we love him here on the show, and it's great that he's part of what you're trying to do as well. I did want to ask you, because obviously we're living right now in a uncertain time, right, with COVID-19, and I know you had a lot of trips planned for the spring. I know some people from Austin were ready to go on a couple of trips with you in the spring. So can you kind of tell us how that, maybe not how that affected you, because it's affected everybody, but what your plans are going in the future? What you have preliminary plans for this season coming up?
Sure. Just for background, so I was there basically the end of February, and stayed. I was going to stay there through the end of March. We had a couple of programs, and then including European Night Champions matches, and we're going to a special evening fundraiser that we were personal guests from Jamie that Friday. I think it was the 13th of March. And then we had tickets. We had a group planned for the Crystal Palace match, which was supposed to be the one, at home, where they were going to clinch the title. And of course, that's when COVID hit, and that's when all the matches were canceled. And my youngest son, was with me, and with our group that had been there. And we luckily caught a plane out on the 14th. Right before it hit the fan. And after that, then, the rest is history for that year. Everything, our trips were canceled. Fortunately, anything that people paid, we're able to get it back or credit towards, this coming season. Season is concerned, there's still just a great deal of uncertainty.
Sure.
In terms of when they're going to let fans back, what capacity they will let them back. So, I was talking with the club just last week, and they're still waiting to hear, because they don't know that even if fans are allowed back, is it going to be 20%? Is it going to be 30%? So they still don't know. At this point, what I can say is I put in requests for a lot of matches this year, but realistically, I think it's going to look the earliest second half of the season.
Yeah.
And on top of that, then you've got the whole issue of, not being able to travel from the U.S. And then possibly having to quarantine. So if the 14-day quarantine is still in effect, that can cause a great deal of problems for us to be able to run the programs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we all hope that this situation gets not resolved, but it improves here in the next few months. And we know that as the season starts here on the 12th, that is not going to be what we want it to be, right? Where it's going to be sold out, 60,000 fans there.
Right.
The tourist industry is going to be robust. We just know that. So, we all hope that it will get there, that you'll be at the forefront of bringing people over there and having experiences with you. And so I wanted to say, speaking of experiences, I remember one of the experiences that I've had on one of your trips that was, you're so structured in how you set up your agenda, that I remember sitting at a coffee shop one day and Martin Skirtle walked by, went out there, took a picture with him. He's just everyday bloke, but he's going to the Liverpool one. We take a picture with him. And so I wanted to ask you, what other kind of things that weren't part of your trip, and it just surprised you, and it was amazing. And then you and the people that were with you are like, this is awesome.
I'll give you a couple examples. Two of them involve the Beatles.
Okay.
So this past season, Strawberry Field has just reopened. They've redone it. They've rededicated it. It's now also a very contemplative setting in the gardens there. And there's a lot of history, obviously, with John Lennon. So we were there with Jackie, and gave everyone an opportunity to go inside, get some tea, a snack if they wanted, and there's a really nice gift shop, as well as to walk the grounds in the gardens. So while we were there, they were filming, it was actually an American, I think it was NBC News, was filming with John's sister, Julia. And Jackie obviously knows her, and a few of us got to sit and chat with Julia as well. Similarly, this past season, we were at, as part of the Beatles tour going down Penny Lane, sometimes we stop at Dovedale Towers and have a couple of pints and maybe a snack. Otherwise, we go to the, about 2 doors down, there's a Penny Lane. I'm struggling to remember the exact name of it, but it's for the neighborhood. And dedicated to the Beatles and Beatles history. And while we were there, the Quarrymen, which was the original group that John belonged to, the living members of the Quarrymen were there recording, and we were able to meet them, as well as Peter Hooton.
Who will be on our podcast here soon.
Oh, Willie. Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I actually did a podcast from New York at Carragher's with Peter and Brian McLaughlin.
Peter's
Peter
on Monday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Please tell him I said hi.
Will.
We just happened to run into him coming out from meeting the Quarrymen, and so he was gracious enough to talk to everyone. He also is very active in Spirit of Shankly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing, that's one of the new things that we've done as well, is that we've had them meet with us at Home Baked and talk a little bit about what they're about, what they're done, the history, some of the struggles that they see and how they interact with the club.
You mentioned that, Ken. I wanted to ask you a question because right now, most of the people that are coming on these trips are from the United States, right? So when they meet somebody from the Spirit of Shankly, and from my estimation of your trips, a lot of the people, this is their first time going there, right?
Correct.
So when they get to speak to a member of Spirit of Shankly, and that person from SOS says, this is what the club is about. This is the social aspects of it. This is how we come together and we can help make decisions for the club, as proven in the past, in the furloughs and the ticket prices and things like that, right? So how is that received? Because obviously it's a different aspect, because in the United States, the fans don't have that kind of power, right?
They don't. And actually, I think it's not only that aspect, Steve, but it's also really getting an intimate feel. Liverpool is the people's club. I don't care who owns it. they're just placeholders. It's really the people's club. And when you get to meet with folks like SOS, you really get to learn what that history and what that intimate connection is all about. And I think people just walk away with such a greater understanding, such a greater appreciation of the history and what it means to the people and how they take it to heart, that it really is a unique experience.
You know, I go ahead. I'm sorry, Dad.
That's what we try to instill on this podcast as well. You know, learn about the history of Liverpool Football Club. You know, it's not just about going to the match. It's about getting involved. You know, reading a book, talking to the locals. You know, that's what we want on this podcast as well. Like to make it feel like it's family. You know, and there's nothing truer than when we say, when Liverpool is, you'll never walk alone. That's what it means.
Absolutely. And that's part of my goal. I mean, you know, for example, that's why, one of the reasons why on both match day and a couple others, you know, I could easily use either Peter's van or hire a bus or whatever, but I build in opportunities to take the taxis to the stadium or to an event or something. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. If you find my camera that I bought just for that, it's in one of those taxis. I bought a brand new camera and left it in the taxi on the first day at the hotel. So
that's right.
If you find it, let me know.
Okay. But you know, that gives people a true, the taxi drivers there are wonderful.
Yeah, they are.
And you really get the connection when you talk to them. And, you know, that's part of the experience that I try and really get to. There were two other things that I was going to mention, and that is one of the surprises that we had was with Jackie again was when we were doing the tour, we go to Wooten Hall, which is where Paul and John kind of first met and played and all that. But the curator there of the social club, as well as the church, is Bob Paisley's son. And we've been able to meet, we had an opportunity as a whole group to meet with him. And you know, he's a really quiet gentleman. And just to be able to say hi and, you know, talk about his dad and the work he does at the church and everything, it was really, really special. The other thing in terms of something different that's unexpected, and Stephen, you'll get a kick out of this. So Alan Kennedy and Paul Tremarco play walking football.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have talked about it with them or whatever. So this last time, a couple of us went out to watch Alan play. And it's not too far from Anfield. And it was, you know, such a fantastic experience. And then they all went into the cafeteria part of the complex there. And Alan introduced us all to the members of the team, their families. All of them had their families there. You know, most of them are like 60 and over, and they have a nice little tea after. Nothing formal, paper cups, and, you know, somebody brought some cake. But Alan just brought us all around. We got to meet everybody, say hi to everybody. And it's just, you know, you just can't duplicate that.
Yeah, I mean, we're so anxiously waiting for the holiday season because I've been talking about Paul's Crimbo CD. And you know what I'm talking about,
Yes,
Ken. So we can't wait to play it. And it just, you know, we love Paul. But I want to, you know, it's interesting because the first trip and a lot of our listeners and viewers know that my first trip to Anfield was that there wasn't actually a game. It was the weekend that we lost 6-1 to Stoke.
Right.
We were there for the gala, and the city was just depressed, so depressed. I mean, I had to drink the whole weekend just because I was so depressed, right? I had a drink.
I doubt that, Steve. You just drank because you like to drink.
Well, that too. But I was drinking for the whole city and the team. but then, you know, we come back in October, Ken, and then that was the first home game for Klopp, right? And
Right.
the whole and I try to tell people this, and I think some people think it's hyperbole, that the whole city had changed, the whole energy of that. And I know you remember that because you're part of that trip. But what's your take on this whole situation with Klopp and how he's really energized the city and changed it?
He has. He's not only energized the city and the supporter base in particular, but there is a buzz without doubt. I mean, it's palpable. You just sense it the minute you arrive. And also, I mean, he has a connection with the supporters. He will interact with them during the match, you know, trying to get them going. He'll encourage them the day before. He really is a master in that regard, and he has. There's no question. Looking back the last couple of years, it is much more energetic, much more. There's a buzz of anticipation before every single match, and in between the matches. I mean, it's just, you know, it's omnipresent.
Yeah, I mean, and Dazzle, no, I mean, you know, it's one thing as an American to say things that, you know, can be misconstrued as like I'm just being a fanboy because we have American owners. But, you know, I think Daza and I agree on a lot of things that FSG has done and the ownership group and the way Klopp has really changed the mindset of the team, right? Where we're at the point where we should be. So you need to think like that. And I think that's, I mean, you know this, right?
Well, I mean, the whole Klopp saying doubters into believers. And believe me, I believe, you know,
right.
Like the good times are back, you know, but they are. He's rejuvenated this club. He gets it. He just gets the club. He gets the people, and the people get him. Yeah. You know, it's just a match made in heaven. He just needs to sign for the rest of his life.
yeah. We hope. Hey, so Ken, I want to kind of transition back to Quest.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the past, it's been majority American, Canadian people that have gone on these trips. So, are you doing anything to try to get other groups from other parts of the world to come with you?
You know, I'm glad you asked that because after listening to the podcast with Andre, you know, I'd like to link up with him and talk to him. I know that we have spoken with, for example, the Paris supporters about trying to do something with them. I've spoken with the fellow who runs the supporters club in Hong Kong, trying to do something because there's a large contingent from Southeast Asia that comes over. So we've had some discussions with them about trying to expand, and also the cross-cultural aspect of Americans and other nationalities coming together for a weekend in Liverpool.
Yeah, I know that's one of the things that you really pride yourself on, and bringing the Anfield experience to as many people as possible. And we've talked about this. I mean, Daz and I, you know, Daza was fortunate to grow up there, right? Yeah. He's been to 70 games at Anfield. I've been fortunate enough to go.
Just a few.
A few, yeah. I've been to, I think, 5 or 6 games at Anfield. There's many people that will never get that experience. Right. So what we're trying to do with this podcast is bring the experience to them. But if they ever have an opportunity to come, you know, they'll have a resources to search out. And because, like, for instance, we'll have the LFC from Tokyo on next week. We're having the LFC from Malaysia on the week after. So we're trying to expand, not for our own purposes, but to bring Liverpool together, right? I mean, the more you expand it, the closer everybody gets. We support each other, and when they come to Liverpool, they seek you out. They seek Jackie out. They seek Paul, Peter Carney for his tours. You know, so we're all helping each other, and you know, it's so it's interesting to me to try to like link these and whatever Daz and I can do to help link people. We feel kind of the same way that you've done in bringing people to Liverpool,
Yeah.
that you're just a piece of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I really do. I mean, like I said, my goal is more than just the match, even though that's a prime part of it. But it's really to allow them to experience the people, the culture, the vibrancy. It's an incredibly vibrant city with all kinds of cultures. And that's, you know, I want people to see it and love it as much as I do.
You know, these trips that you've taken over the years, besides Jackie, who is wonderful, Home Baked, who is wonderful, Peter Carney, that we know, kind of share a couple other things that people that have not been in Liverpool should seek out to experience the city.
Sure. I mean, there are a bunch of things. I mean, obviously, Paul, for match days, also Hotel Tia, to see, you know, if they want to see Jamie Webster on match day, but you have to get there early.
Yeah, I believe Hotel Tia is coming on our podcast here soon.
Okay. Is it Ragnhild or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because she just finished. Well, she just did a Norwegian book on Liverpool, right?
Yes.
And then she's gonna work on like another book. So I'm running the hotel as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and she's also got the book on the captains from Liverpool. But the Baltic Triangle, which is where the Klopp mural is.
Yep.
And what people don't know is right. It's kind of on a corner. That right around the corner is up above. There are 4 little murals of, I think it's Bobby, Sadio, Mo, and who's the 4th one? Oh, I'm gonna get killed for this one. But they're murals of it, like little portrait murals on top of the building, right around the corner from Klopp's. Those are areas that they should go.
Isn't that one of the interesting things I felt like recently, that the murals are going up on the players, whereas 2 or 3 years ago there weren't any, right? So I think there has been a nice association with the city and the team again. They were putting murals up, no one's defacing them,
right?
And they're becoming part of. You need to go there and take a picture in front of it, right? So that's fun to me.
Absolutely. And then just, you know, checking out local pubs. I mean, there's nothing better. No, Jackie's. Yeah, I know, Stephen.
Never been in a pub. Sorry,
but so we've had one place I know that you're familiar with, across the street from the Aloft Hotel, which is where we stay. We've had lunch with Alan over there, so he'll come in. We have a nice pub lunch and a relaxing atmosphere, shall we say? And you know, spend a couple hours with Alan there. But you know, also right down the other direction, the corner from the Temperance opened up a little bar lounge, which you'll have to see when you get there. But Jackie also takes us. We sometimes schedule her to do a Beatles pub crawl.
Yeah.
So you have to go to the Philharmonic if you're there. And we've gone to the Jacaranda. We have not done the Casbah Coffee House, but we're working on that. We've gone to the Cavern Club, obviously. People at Matthew Street, especially on a European night, you want to be around Matthew Street.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are lots of, and you know, the docks, of course. And
so how'd you get involved with the Loft? Because I know that's where you kind of, when you bring your tours over, that's where you're based out of, right? The Loft Hotel.
Yeah.
And warning to anybody, don't play Johnny Connors in pool, because he doesn't play by the rules. I'm just going to let you know that. So
I'll tell him you said that.
No, he'll know that I said that. But anyway, so how did you get to that, to where that was the base? I know it's right down from the Liverpool One, the city central there. So
originally, I want to be in the city center.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to be within walking distance of a lot of the, the sites, so the docks, to Matthew Street, to Liverpool 1. And I think my second year that we were doing it, I had heard about the loft. They were not yet open. They're in what was the old Royal Insurance Building,
Right.
which was probably the most preeminent and prominent business building in Liverpool for like 50 years. That fell into complete disrepute, much like, the area around Anfield. Well, this building had been abandoned,
Right.
and was just sitting there. And these folks, this took it over, a development company, and refurbished it and kept a lot of the original architecture.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen pictures of the building when it was vacant, with like trees growing through the middle of it.
Right.
And on my second year there, I happened to hear about it and went over and actually met with the general manager prior to their opening. And he said, why don't you come back in the fall when we're open, spend some time, and we'll talk. And so I did. Actually, my youngest son and I went over in the fall on our own. It was Guy Fawkes weekend, which was fantastic. We went to Sefton Park for fireworks. And I have to say, I don't think I've been to a better fireworks show in my life.
Yeah. Nice.
But we went to the Aloft when they had just opened. I think that was probably 2014 or 2015. And we've been using it ever since. They've just been fantastic to us, to all our guests. They go out of their way. They're incredibly friendly. And it's just a great location.
And they have a nice dance scene on the weekends upstairs. So I know that before we wind it down, I know Darren wanted to talk to you about what's really important is this team and going into this next season. So take it away, Daza.
Well, today's match, I don't want to really talk about.
Let's talk about the season coming up.
It's for charity anyway. So we gave it Arsenal. That's our charity. So obviously, we're going to defend the title, or as Klopp says, we're going to attack it. Which I again, he's a mastermind with his words. I just love it. Where do you see us? Like, do you think we're going to delve into the transfer market for one or two more players?
I don't think so. I don't think that is the style for FSG, number one. So my background has included professional baseball, and I've had interactions with the Red Sox, and they very much follow the same kind of blueprint over in Liverpool. I don't. That's just not the way they operate. I think they'd much rather find undervalued talent and develop it, rather than going out and spending cash on the equivalent of free agents or big name signings just to have a big name signing. I think that, from what I understand and talking with a number of the writers, that Klopp is very happy with the core team. Mm-hmm. And I think the question becomes, what kind of complementary players does he need? Or if they're even out there, number one, and number two, are they overpriced or not? Because if they're overpriced, they're not going to do it. I think that he understands that it's going to be a long season, and the target is on their back.
Ken, it's so fascinating because I'm very overt about my fascination with the business side of FSG and football in general. And what are your thoughts about Billy Beane, who's made Moneyball famous, right, with Oakland Athletics? And obviously with FSG, with Michael Edwards, they've also using the same analytics to take, just analyzing every single aspect of a player's movement during a game and using it to evaluate their market value, and now he wants to be part owner, do you think he's actually going to have any input, or is he just bringing in cash to the team?
I think primarily cash, because John Henry already has instilled that whole mentality and perspective and way of doing business into the club. I could see that if that were not present already, then they would be leaning on Billy Beane for that, but it's already there. And I think that, the club has made it known that they were looking for a minority partner, and they may be able to optimize the value of it right now. There may be no better time.
Yeah, and I always try to bring perspective to people that don't necessarily look at it this way, but for those that are into business, John, there's very few people in business at that level that are more intellectual than John Henry is. People look to him for guidance, the way that he looks at numbers and trends and things like that. I mean, that's the way he built his fortune. But I mean, when other people are looking at you for that kind of guidance, you're at the top of the top level of it. And I think that a lot of people don't give him credit for being that intellectual, and that's kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, he's a very shrewd business person, as well as a shrewd mind with numbers. So yeah, but in terms, I don't know, Daza, you think, am I off base in terms of them looking more for complementary?
Yeah, well, see, I think a lot of people have this idea, Thiago from Bayern, they're thinking 30 mil, but again, with his wages, it's going to be more like 50, 60 mil for a 29-year-old. Like, right. People don't think about the wages that you're going to have to pay. Curtis Jones, prime example, he's just blending into the squad. Nico had a bad game today, but he's still. Klopp will give these lads chances. Now, I would like to see Brewster stay, but there's talk of him going to Sheffield United or West Brom for a season loan, and I think that'll help him out. But we are that FSG are doing this smart. Everybody right now is comparing everything to Chelsea, what they've spent, but nobody knows what's going to happen with this season. They're going to pay tons of wages. What if no fans are allowed back this entire season? Chelsea are going to be screwed. And FSG, to me, they're doing it right. I would like to see players come in, but I get it. And I'm going to trust Klopp rather than some lad who's a keyboard warrior going, we need this player and this player. I'll trust Klopp. And FSG.
Or Klopp out,
God bless.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to take notes. Where are those keyboard warriors? I'd never seen any of those.
Just 1 second after the match, that's where they are.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In their mum's basement.
Yes.
You bring an excellent point about it's not just the transfer fee, because I read some articles just in the last day or two that with Messi, for example, even if he goes in on a free, if it turns out that his lawyers prevail or anything, you still got his wages to pay. Yeah. And not many clubs can afford that.
Right. And how, to me, with the fair play thing as well, and how the hell could City get Messi and work that under the carpet? You
mean the farcical fair play?
Yeah. That's just a joke to me. But if they get Messi, it's just like Cara said. Everybody would love to see Messi in the Premier League. I would.
Yep. Me too.
But does that mean City are going to win everything? No. They still have problems at the back.
Yeah.
But
and it's also going to handcuff them in terms of what they will have no flexibility in the future financially to fill in those, and that's where you see American sports clubs run into their problems, particularly when there's a salary cap. If they've gone and hung their hat on one or two people and it doesn't work out, they're screwed because they have no flexibility.
And then you get, you're hearing these rumors about his dad, who's very like, it's got to be Messi's team.
Right.
Like he picks who's playing. I think he's going to stay at Barca. I do. I think he defo wants, the whole regime changed.
Right.
These players out, but it's the director he wants out, which I just find so weird. About Spanish football.
Yeah. I think that, well, two things. One, if he does move, I would see PSG being a very significant player in that. But I question whether or not he really would want to come to the Premier League, because I think it's going to be too physical a league for him. And I'm not sure he wants that.
not at his age. He would get hacked, So, but back to Liverpool. I just think we've got to have a good start to the season, and what better way to smash Leeds back to Yorkshire?
Yeah. There you
I
go.
hate him. I hate Leeds, man.
Well, I would tell you that we had already pretty much guaranteed that we would have had tickets for this match, because it's always been my hope to do an opening season match. We've never been able to generate enough support for it for a variety of reasons, but this year we would have sold out quickly.
Well, I mean, Ken, this is why we wanted to bring you on the show, because you've been a good steward of people going to Anfield from across the United States and Canada, but also, you've been to the Austin Sports Club. You brought Alan Kennedy with us, so you've always been a good friend of ours, and so we, appreciate the efforts there. And so, I wanted to ask you a question. Out of your history of Liverpool, who is your favorite player?
Currently?
I don't know. Daza, is it currently or is it all time? I don't know.
No, all time. All time.
All time.
Look, I've become really good mates with Alan. And just pure sentimental reasons. I have to just be who he is and the type of guy he is.
He likes the Dos Equis. That's all I know.
What? Not Alan. Absolutely not. You must be mistaking him for Stevie Nickel.
Stevie likes anything. Alan Kennedy likes Dos Equis.
Let's just talk about current plays. I mean, Kara's also special because he's a young guy and his personality and all that. I think that the current squad, I really vacillate. I can't narrow it to one. I can tell you that probably at the top is going to be Mane. I think he's just a really, really talented player who's willing to play both ends of the pitch. I've seen him come back so often and be an integral role in defending. I think that if it weren't for his injury mid-season last year, I think Fabinho was a beast.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he really, really shone. And it took him a while after coming back, but towards the end of the season, it was back there. So I'm really hoping that he can, continue on this season with it.
According to the keyboard warriors, he's shit now.
Yeah, well.
I would say, like, out of the front three as well, Mane is my favourite, and I would not want him to leave, Liverpool. Now, Salah, I like him as well, but I just think Mane just brings something different. Salah's obviously good, but Mane's just, I don't know, he to me, he embodies Liverpool FC as well.
Yeah.
So, good choice.
Good. Great minds think alike.
Yeah, that's right. There you go.
They
So
drink alike as well.
So Ken, my one of my final questions to you is, once everything starts going back, right, where we can start going to the games and people can actually plan travel, um, not only from the United States, from around the world, going back to Liverpool and obtaining tickets, how can people learn more about your company, Quest Sports, and get in touch with you and say, hey, I want to be on the list when you make the next trip?
Sure. And we do. We have a really large mailing list for people who do want to be notified. There are a couple of different ways. The easiest way is I have 2 Facebook pages. One is my own personal. The other is called Trips to Anfield. And both are kept up to date in terms of news about any upcoming trips and previous trips and history and all that. So I would say Facebook, either under my own or Trips to Anfield is the best way. Or contacting Quest Sports Travel directly. There is the website, which is Quest Sports Travel. They can send a notice that way, or they can email me at ksolomon@questsportstravel.com. So Facebook is the easiest.
Well, we hope to try to.
Yeah, we'll put a link to it on our website.
Great. And I've had just such a wonderful experience. I mean, it's trite to say, but I really do feel blessed. I've met some fantastic people, and I have to say I keep in touch with just about everyone who's been on the trip. We had a very special group. They're all special, but because it was Barcelona, and to me that's going to be the highlight.
Tell us about that, because I wanted to ask you about that, because I know you took a group there. Tell us about that experience, because obviously it's not. Me personally, watch something about that game once or twice a week, and late at night, I'm ready to go to bed, and it'll be on YouTube TV. It'll say some Barcelona. Like, okay, let me watch it again, and it never gets old. But I forgot that you had brought a group over there for that game. So tell us about it.
It is absolutely the most amazing experience I've ever had.
Yeah.
And to put it into perspective, I think it was just a couple of days before that City had won their Premier League match, if I remember correctly.
Right, yep.
So people were a little bit down in the dumps about that and not feeling so good. And, obviously 3-0 in Champions League is really tough to come back, especially, it was Barcelona. And considering the fact that we were missing some very key players, it was like, we'll go for the experience,
yeah, right.
That kind of thing. And then it just exploded. I have never, ever been part of any event. I don't care whether it was a rock concert or a baseball game or a basketball. Unbelievable. That place was rocking. I mean, I'm surprised that it is still standing, or the foundation to Anfield didn't crack. But, I kept saying to myself throughout the match, just clean sheet.
Yeah.
Really care about just a clean sheet. And then we got 1, and then we got 2. And then it was like, oh my God, can this really be? And, when 3 came, it was just boom. I have pictures from that, of the group afterwards. We're just still in the stands screaming. And there's like this group photo of, you think, maniacs, absolute maniacs. And that was one of the matches where Peter took us back to the hotel after the match. Yeah. And we have pictures of at the Aloft where Peter let us off. And he has some of his banners that he had never shown in public before. And we've got them all stretched out, taking group pictures and screaming and shouting. And it's just, words can't describe what that night was like.
Well, we watched it at the pub, and Dazza was there. He's going to Liverpool that night. And luckily for him, the flight got delayed. So him and Cookie are going to Liverpool. And so our friend Mark Johnson, he ends up driving them to the airport, and they're already trashed. So I can't even imagine them having this, 8-hour, 9-hour flight back to Liverpool, already buzzing about it. So.
It was very boisterous. We got told we need to shut up a few times. Yeah, because Ashley, the stewardess, was a Chelsea fan. And we put our Liverpool scarves, over the seat, and she's like, "Get those things off." We're like, "Just get us another beer, love."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember Daza being at the pub with his suitcase. Like, we should go. And he's checking his phone. Oh, we're delayed. I'm like, okay, you're lucky.
Another pint.
Another pint.
Yeah.
But I mean, just to be there, I imagine Ken. And I thought about you because I knew you were there. We're at the pub. I'm like, man, this has got to be an experience. And I am sure that there were people that was like their first Anfield experience this weekend, right?
Yes.
Can you imagine that being your first Anfield experience? I mean, where do you go from there, right?
Well, the funny thing is that we had a reunion. Not all of them, but most of them came back for the match this past Champions League.
Okay.
So it was nice that we were able to get back to it. The result was disappointing, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But
against Atletico, yeah.
Yeah, it was. But it was still, it made its mark. It burnt itself into the very fiber of our being, that we all came, most of them came back, and we were able to experience and relive it again. But I don't think as much as there's a generation that identify themselves with Istanbul, Barca match to me, that's for me because it happened at Anfield. Well, and it happened in circumstance, given the circumstances.
I mean, you're from Boston, so you remember. I think what was it, 2007, right? When they came back from 3-0 down against the Yankees, and they end up beating them in 7 games, and then going to win the World Series. So you were there during that time, and then now you're part of this Liverpool squad that has broken the duck, right, after 30 years. So it's just got to be an amazing to have these experiences for yourself, but also to share them with other people.
Yep, and then to be there for, as you say, for the Premier League champions last year, to be part of that. It's just, and it's, as people say, just relax and enjoy it. For everybody who was, fretting last year about, oh my God, this and that, relax and enjoy it.
Well,
it happen all the time.
I mean, we've gone on record and telling people like, it does, if you're not going to go and enjoy the journey, what's the point?
Right.
Whether you win a trophy at the end, but look at all the friends that you can have made.
Absolutely.
Coming to the pub, the experiences, the memories that, we take pictures and we show them back later. People always make fun of me, and Dazza knows this. They make fun of me. You're always taking pictures. I'm like, yeah. When I post the pictures, a year later, like, man, that was such a great time. I'm like, yeah. Because I took the picture, you remember what a great time it was. But it's not just about that day, right? It's about the camaraderie, and it's the team, and it's just and it's hard to explain to people. Like, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. This family will always be there. You could travel around the world, and we had Carrie Elizabeth with us.
Yeah.
Right? And Keith Salmon, and like, you could travel anywhere. You just say you're Liverpool, and you'll be welcomed. And that's what it's about, right? So
Absolutely.
Free drinks.
They're better.
I mean, I'm just working on free drinks, but Daz has this more, altruistic point of view. I'm drinks. So anybody that's listening or see us on YouTube, when I visit, I need a pint.
There you go. If we have a minute, I would love to hear
of course
Daza talk about how he views not only the globalization of the Premier League, but the globalization and its effect on Liverpool.
You know what? I've been a fan since the 70s. My first match was 76. So I saw all the greats. And back then, you know, it was my club for Scousers, you know.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you know, you see different faces, different cultures coming, and you're like, it's not just my club anymore; it's our club. And globalization is that's it's going to happen, you know, in business sense. But I'm proud of what the Premier League has done as well, you know, with the television rights for over here, you know, for Asia. But for Liverpool, I'm just proud, you know, that again, doesn't matter race, colour, gender, you know, this team to me can be, and there's quite a few people back home that still moan and groan, you know, that they are from the old school, and they will say, you know, it's my club, you know, if you're not from there, why are you wearing that shirt? You know, I think that's a load of crap, you know. Liverpool, as you know, is a welcoming city, just like Liverpool Football Club is as well, you know. So I love it. Who wouldn't love it, you know?
Yeah.
And again, you know, wherever you go, if you wear a Liverpool shirt, you basically open arms, you know, you'll get a hug, you know. Even for, like Kerry was saying, you know, even from non-Liverpool fans, you know, she'll get a drink bought for her, or a hug, and just say, you know, I love the Premier League.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I love about this club. You know, that's what I love about the Premier League. It's the best league in the world. You know.
Yeah.
It is. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, I wanted to ask you because I remember, I know a lot of people that say that food in England is not very good, right? But when I went to Liverpool, and I know guys that can attest to this, had some great food.
Mm-hmm.
There was I had a great curry there. You know, obviously fish and chips are kind of is always for me pretty good because I'll always eat that. But tell us some of your favorite places to eat in Liverpool.
Oh,
besides home baked. Don't say home baked because we've already said home baked. We already know that.
I go to home baked for my bare breath.
I know
it. There are. I mean, it's, you know, again, it's a very diverse city. And you've got a lot of diversity in terms of the ethnicity of the food culture there. And, you know, some of my favorites are, we usually bring the group, we do a group dinner for every trip. So I've been going to Hanover Street Social a lot because that's a kind of an upscale, I wouldn't call it a pub at all, but it has that kind of feeling to it. That's one of my favorites. There's Salt House Tapas. There's Del Fonseca Deli. There's a bunch of Turkish places that I absolutely love. Bold Street. I mean, I don't know, you know, how much you remember of Bold Street, but that's really thriving in terms of food scene. There's a little place called the Little Shoe restaurant that is very much, you know, the locavore scene there, and it's all, you know, locally based, locally sourced foods, and I find, you know, much of that part of the country, you know, it's basically very much into organic, sustainable foods and farming, and a lot of the restaurants there very much source all their foods locally when possible. So you know, I enjoy all that. I mean, I'm really big into the food scene here and abroad, wherever we go, and nothing pleases me more than to try and partake of the local food and local, supporting local growers. So, UK in general, British food is much maligned. It has changed tremendously over the years, and there's just a great variety. Whether you want to go for kebab, curry, even Chinatown in Liverpool, which I've yet to really experience fully, or some of the, the British, and there's tapas, and you can go on and on.
I'm hungry now.
I need a little snack now. I don't know. This has been brilliant, Ken. I mean, everybody knows that knows me, that you're one of my favorite people of all time. I love you.
I wish I could say the same.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't matter. It's the way it is. I love people. They love me. They may not love me. I don't care. But all I know is that you were very instrumental in having my being a part of my first experience at Anfield, and obviously that will always be dear to my heart, because we tell everybody, get there if you can.
Absolutely.
If you can get there, get there. But if you can't, we understand. Then try to get to a game in the United States. Obviously, there's some, we know some past history with Silitano and the ICC, and we don't really want to go into that right now. But if you can get to some of the games, that when they are here in the United States, go to it, because this is your club. They want you to be there. They want to be, expand the network of people that are supporting them. And obviously, unfortunately, Peter Moore's stepping down, but I mean, he was very instrumental in expanding the base of Liverpool Football Club. And we appreciate your efforts in doing that, Ken. And you'll always be a friend of the show. You're a friend of our supporters club. And me personally, man, you know how I feel about you. So thanks for coming on.
Same here, brother. I really appreciate that.
And hopefully, one day when the parade does happen, we'll all be there together to celebrate us being Premier League champions.
Absolutely. From your lips, you're right.
Oh God, isn't that great to say that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just amazing. And hopefully, number 20 is on the way.
Let's hope. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
listen, I want to just say thank you for the opportunity. I've really, when Stephen called and first said something about coming on, I've really been sitting with anticipation, because you guys really have a great supporters club, number one. And the podcast is really tremendous too, because I really respect what you're doing. In terms of bringing all the different facets to supporters here, so they can really see what it's all about. So I thank you for that.
Cheers. Yeah, because we could have a podcast that we just banter on, right, for an hour and just really talk about footy. But what me and Steve really want is, especially because we are an American-based podcast, a lot of Americans don't know the history, the stories. Like, even for me, coming from there, like Peter Carney, like, I didn't know some of the stories, like behind the banners and stuff. And it really, like, gets me here. And, like George Sefton, like, that's probably one of my favorite interviews, because, I used to go in the 70s and I heard him, and then before my granddad passed away, I finally met George, and it brought back again that memory, of my granddad. So that's what we try to bring. So you saying that, just that makes me feel like this is all worth it, So I appreciate that a lot.
My pleasure. Good. Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and just talk.
Yeah, it's always good. And Steve likes to talk.
I do, man. And I ran out of beer earlier, so I was like, okay, I got to just talk now. I can't.
Yeah, what else do I have to do? Okay.
Hey, we appreciate you, Ken. We love you. And we will make sure that we put your links to your website on our Facebook page and our website, and that we all grow together.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Cool. Cheers,
All right.
mates.
Cheers. Have a good
Cheers.
night.
Thanks, Ken.
All right.
See ya.
Cheers. Bye now.
Bye.